Caught my wife cheating on me and I know exactly when it started. 5 updates. Hi guys, this one is going to be long, so like and subscribe, and now, on to the story. Update 3. Hi champions, I'm back. Thank you all who contacted me. I've been silent because I needed time to reflect and I finally got it. Thank you very much. It's been some very rough days. For those who want to know, I did met Jane. No, I didn't answer her letter. It was by a dumb mistake I made. I'll explain. A few days after my last post I had an anxiety attack due to the stress I had bottled up. According to my therapist, my life had a 180 change and my mind hadn't had time to adjust. It was my first time having this kind of episodes. I thought I was having a stroke, tachycardia. Sweating and panic clouded my judgment. My coworkers dialed to emergency and an ambulance came for me. If I hadn't been so scared, I'd have enjoyed the ride. I was so very sure at any moment I'd croak. The paramedic repeated to me, "Mister, you are having a panic attack, everything is gonna be fine." I tried to focus on his words but I couldn't. My only thoughts were, I'm gonna die. At the hospital they sedated me and I started to feel better and sleepy. I could answer questions. The doctor asked for my name, my age, what day was it. I could answer correctly until I passed out. When I woke up, guess who was next to me? Jane. I forgot to take out her name and number from my emergency contact. I was very confused due to the drugs. I smiled at her and said, "Jane." She was sitting reading a book and when she heard me she jumped off her seat and approached me. She had tears in her eyes and told me, "Hello my love, you really scared us." That's when everything came back to me. I stopped smiling and asked, "What are you doing here?" I tried to sit but my body felt numb and clumsy. She shushed me and told me, "Take it easy, no sudden movements. I'll get the doctor." She kissed my forehead and left. I wanted to evade the kiss but also my reflexes were numb. That kiss felt so familiar, but I know it has been more than a year since she kissed me with sincere love. While she was gone I saw around me. I was in a big room with other 6 beds, 4 of them with the patients. They all separated by curtains to have privacy. I also noticed I wasn't wearing my clothes but a hospital robe. A few minutes later she came back with the doctor. I had slept for 26 hours. The doctor explained all about the anxiety attack I suffered. He asked me if I stopped taking any meds but Jane and I answered almost at the same time, "I don't." He doesn't take any meds. I hate how well she knows me. The doctor told me the episode comes from a heavy stress or a sudden change in my life, or both. I glanced at Jane but she hid her eyes. He ordered some days off to reflect and get some therapy. I told him I'm already on therapy but the doc said I need to see a psychiatrist. My therapist is a thanatologist, psychologist, so she can't prescribe meds. He told me that I must be hungry and the next day I'd be discharged and he left. It was 8 p.m. So Jane had another hour until visiting hours were over and she didn't look like she wanted to leave. It felt awkward and that feeling leads me to chatter like an idiot. So I asked, "You said, they were here in the morning, did they leave?" "Yes, they are expecting my call, I'll talk to them tomorrow." "You can leave, I want to sleep, but your dinner it's almost here." When the doctor mentioned I must be hungry my stomach grumbled. I didn't eat a thing for 26 hours. Scared us. "Who are us?" She smiled. I bet she knew I couldn't resist to talk. "Your parents." And few minutes later a veteran nurse came with a tray on a cart. She asked Jane to manipulate the bed so I'd be in sitting position to eat. I don't know what kind of face I made because Jane was amused and staring at me while the nurse arranged the tray in front of me on my bed. "I'm an ex-glutton guy." She said, "God, I love you so much." I glared at her again and asked her one more time to go home, but the nurse got really mad at me. According to her, Jane spongebathed me and she even shaved me. I didn't notice until she told me. Finally she asked Jane to feed me because I was still coming out of the meds. I told her we're getting divorced but she said that's not her problem and I should be thanking her. She's been here to help and I am a very ungrateful person. Then she left. I refused her help and tried to eat even though my movements were very clumsy. I was making a mess with the soup and Jane begged me to let her help me. I felt like a spoiled brat making a tantrum. I just said, "Fine," and let her feed me. I never felt so vulnerable before. She behaved very maternalistic and affectionate. I could have a close look at her. She wasn't wearing makeup. I saw more lines of expression and also, she has crow's feet now. I felt better after I finished eating. She took the tray out of the room. She was in good mood. I saw a patient in front of me, a man in his 50s, checking Jane when she went out and came back. I'm not surprised, she was wearing a coat and jeans, but she's very pretty. I didn't like the feeling of being in debt with her. When she sat down I said, "Thanks for being here." She looked me in the eyes and smiled, "Anytime." She tried to comb my hair in my forehead with her hand, but I could reject her this time. She looked hurt and I didn't say anything. She tried to grab my hand but I removed it and she said, "Can we talk, please?" I remained silent. There are only two reasons for me to at least be cordial to her: the twins. They weren't baptized when they were toddlers, but after Sil's ex went away, Jane and I supported Sil and the twins. I love those two little rascals with all my heart. When we babysitted them I told Jane this would count as parent training for when we had our owns. That will never happen. Sil asked us to be their godparents and I teared with emotion. They are the closest thing I have to a daughter. And a son. I know Jane loves them too and I don't want any drama near my godson and goddaughter and I miss them so much. I haven't seen them since about a week before D-Day, also I haven't spoken to them because I was avoiding Jane. So I told her, "Okay, let's talk. In the condo. I'll contact you soon." She offered to take me home the next day when I get discharged. I told her no, I'll ask my parents to come for me and I'll see her again in the condo. I wanted to talk to my parents. She noticed I was looking for my clothes. She opened a cabinet next to my bed and gave me my phone. I looked at her suspiciously and she made her guilty face again, meaning I am sure she snooped my phone, and she admitted it. We didn't utter a word. That's the language we developed by being married 11 years. I don't care if she snooped. I have nothing to hide. I texted my parents and they called almost immediately. While I was talking to them, the same old nurse told Jane visiting hours were over. She wanted to say goodbye but I ignored her. She whispered to my ear, "I know you keep your word. I'll wait for you to contact me. I love you." She kissed my hair and left. I do keep my word. My father always told me, "A man is worth as much as his word." I asked my parents if they knew what happened after I passed out. According to them, one of my coworkers showed up in the hospital to give information about my medical secure. That's when the staff saw the emergency contact and they called Jane. Sil contacted them after the hospital called. When Jane came, she met my coworker and he left. Jane was waiting for the doctor assigned to me when my parents arrived. My dad was very cordial to her and asked what she knew. After a while waiting, a nurse called out, "Relatives of patient op." They stood up, and the nurse guided them to the doctor. They've already tested my blood and told them I'm physically healthy. My anxiety attack stems from a psychological aspect. The doctor asked for Jane to see me because she's the emergency contact. She promised my parents to call them after seeing me. When she came back, she was surprised my parents were still there waiting. She gave them a ride to their home while she told them she helped the nurses to undress me and put the hospital robe on. They didn't talk about our divorce. My parents thanked her for the ride and agreed to visit in the morning and she'd switch in the afternoon around 1 p.m. Also I called Sil to thank her for calling my parents. Luckily my godchildren were still up and I could speak to them. They were drawing "Get well soon" cards for me. I promised to visit next weekend. Next day, it was Thursday, I was discharged from the hospital. My parents took me to my new home. A week before my panic attack I started moving to my new place. I took my personal belongings. Everything else will stay in the condo. I'll rent it as fully furnitured. Luckily there are 3 universities nearby. I know there are students who would kill for a place like mine. I've already bought the basic furniture. A refrigerator, a stove. I have to learn to cook my meals. From now on, a bed, a table with chairs and a desk. Cleaning tools. I felt thrilled for the first time. I can call this little apartment my own place. I bought a nice warm jacket for Mr. P. I gave it to him, thanked for his help and told him I'll visit. From time to time, I didn't attend to my neighbor's dinner. I don't feel like dating yet. I think I need more therapy and do some more healing. At my new home I reflected about my goals. Meeting Jane. I concluded I need closure. Understand her actions, make her understand there is no possible reconciliation and end up things amicably. I'll divorce her and move on. But I don't want to lose my in-laws. My sweet and incoherent Mill, my stubborn and strong Sil and her twins who I love. I don't want to miss their birthdays and future achievements. I want to be at least cordial to Jane. At job my boss gave me 5 days off starting the next week. I didn't want to stay in, so I went to the beach. It really helped me to be away from everything and rest. I realized I do love my wife, but the chubby one. The one who got excited when Pizza Fridays arrived. The one who I married 11 years ago. The one who supported my dreams and hopes. The one who hugged me when life got rough. I don't know what happened to her. Did vanity killed her? Horniness? No idea, but I loved my wife deeply, and the one who betrayed me is not my wife. Update 4. Finally I saw my godchildren. Sil took them to a park and I met them there. We four had a great day. Last weekend I met Jane. It was pretty much as I expected. Pleading and lost of crying on both sides. Surprisingly, she didn't blame me. She admitted it was all on her. When she snooped my phone she saw I moved from the condo, my Reddit posts, so she knows everything I know, and more important to her, that I'm not dating. Before the meeting I had another session with my therapist and discussed my anxiety attack and the talk I'll have with Jane. She told me the best way move on is following the next steps. 1. Hit rock bottom. 2. Identify and take control of your emotions. 3. Focus on self-improvement. 4. Take a break, literally. 5. Be constructive. Most of you champions told me to keep in check my emotions. I am sure I'll get angry, sad, anxious. I mustn't let it cloud my words and judgment. Also I'm prone to have another anxiety episode. My therapist mentioned some techniques of breathing that really helped me. Let's move to last Saturday. I asked Mr. P to check if she's alone. She came on time, alone and stunning. New short dress, high heels that she hates but she knows I like her wearing them. I won't lie, my heart skipped a beat. She smiled at me when I opened the door, like she was so happy to see me. I remained calm and expressless. She opened her arms expecting a hug, but I made her a sign inviting her to come in. I offered tea. She loves chamomile tea. She accepted and I made myself a coffee. We sat in front of each other, the table in the middle. I took out my phone and started recording. I tried to write word by word and using boxing references, but it's too long and crude. I gave up. I'll give you a summary. After some dumb chit-chat, she made me feel awkward again. She told me she's read my post and the waterwork began. She said the Jane who made me suffer is gone now. She says that the thing called affair fog is real and she can't believe what she did to me. I told her, then you know I think your letter has been sugar-coated. She said all she wrote is true, but I mentioned I think it is BS that Flirty brainwashed her. She's 10 times smarter than that 403. I demand her to tell me the truth. She went silent and I raised my voice. No, Jane, you are not allowed to be silent again. I had to breathe because I was getting angry. You have to come clean to me right now. I know more than what you wrote in your letter. Sadly she admitted she wanted to F Baldy. She admitted she loved the attention she was receiving, and when she saw Baldy devouring her with his eyes she felt thrilled and aroused. She confessed it began before the elliptical machines incident about a week before, when I was changing clothes in the showers and she was waiting for me outside. Baldy chatted with her and he was flirty and she couldn't believe he'd come onto her. She cried when she told me this. I asked, is that what it takes for you to throw your morals and ethics away? A strong body and a bird brain. From that moment I refer to Baldy as bird brain. She said she was really stupid and selfish and that she gave me for granted. But she assures me that this was only physical, never emotional. She swears she never said to him, I love you, and I am the only owner of her heart and her body. I breathed and regained some composure. I told her, it's been about 3 months since we had sex and last time I could tell you weren't into it. I bet you were longing for bird brain. She says that's not true because according to her, she can't bear a life without me. I said, I don't believe you. You had a good income. You could easily sustain a decent life with bird brain. She repeated she doesn't love him and he was just a toy. I called BS one more time and reminded her when I saw them in the mall. I'm gonna copy this part. Op, I saw you at the mall, with him. Hugging, kissing like when we were engaged. She was fidgeting. I'm so sorry. Op, tell me the truth. You do love him. She shook her head. I liked how people stared at us. But I don't love him. Op, seems like you were the perfect couple, which would never happen with us, right? You love the attention which you would never have with a person like me. Jay, please, don't say that. Op, why not? It's true. It is. I don't perceive myself as an attractive man. I'm the kind of guy anybody wouldn't look twice. Jay, no, you are the man of my dreams. I only want to be with you. Op. If you love me so much, then why cheating? What did he give you I didn't? She couldn't answer the question. I repeated it and she covered her face with her hands and finally admitted she considered Birdbrain's body more attractive than mine. Another jab. It was something I expected, but damn. It hurt. I swear I had a moment of weakness and I hate myself for that. One moment. I yelled again. That moment lasted 9 months. Crying again. It went out of control. 9 months. 9 fucking months of disrespect and lies. Tell me, how could I trust you ever again? Was Birdbrain the only one? What will happen when the next douchebag steps in front of you? You were very good at lying and hiding your cheating. Now she looked desperate. I'm telling you the truth. I know you have no reason to believe me, but I've reflected. I've seen my life without you and I am so sorry. I'm sorry I cheat on you. I'm sorry I lied. I'm sorry your family hate me. But most of all I am so ashamed I hurt you. I beg for your forgiveness. I'm here to come clean and fix things so we could be together again. A lot of tears fell from her face. Before D-Day I'd give an arm to ease those tears. Today I only felt anger. I think you are not getting it. I can no longer trust you. I can't be your husband anymore. There is no way I can forget you in that room with him. You texted him the very same day I told you I was going to my parents and you were ready to get rid of me. My God, Jane. Half an hour after I left, he was inside you and raw. And you even let him finish inside. Why? By this moment I was crying too and I forced her to answer. She looked defeated. She said it made Birdbrain more excited and she liked it, and since she can't get pregnant she thought it didn't matter. I swallowed saliva because I felt a huge knot in my throat. With trembling voice, I asked, what else? I was fishing for more information. I didn't expect to hear what was coming. Jane couldn't see me in the eyes. She looked down and said, he made me beg him to finish inside. This was an uppercut to me. I couldn't speak for several minutes. This is when I hit rock bottom. We both cried and Jane only said, forgive me, forgive me. She tried to grab my hand but I removed it. Then she told me the first time Birdbrain finished inside was the first time she denied intimacy to me. She felt dirty and didn't want me to be tainted. I felt disgusted. I almost throwed up. She swears that's when Birdbrain became more demanding and threatened to come and tell me everything because he thinks Jane belongs to him. I couldn't utter a word. I could still feel the knot in my throat. I wiped my tears with my sleeve. I used our signs language to tell her that her makeup was running. She went to the bathroom and I could catch my breath to calm down a little. While she was away, I could confirm there is no way I'd take her back. I'm so disgusted, I feel like I was gutted out. But also I knew I needed to know this. I needed to know how deep the rabbit hole goes. I don't want to carry this anger and confusion anymore. When she came back from the bathroom I told her I can't go on. I need space and time. She said she understood. Before she left, she asked me if I will ever forgive her. I told her I don't know, but I appreciate her honesty. She hugged me. I didn't return the hug. She cried and I could feel her tears wetting my neck. She swore in the name of my late father-in-law, who was her hero, she will never cheat on me ever again, that she has gone NC with Birdbrain, she called him Birdbrain herself, and to devote her life to us, to our marriage. She even proposed to gain weight again so I'd be sure she's committed to me. I told her she's saying nonsenses. We both made a big effort to lose weight. But she says therapy made her realize she's a narcissist and an attention junkie. I gave her a key copy of the condo to get all her stuff. She finally left. I thought I'd cry a lot, but strangely I had a feeling of relief. It feels like my mind is telling me, now you can move on. I lay down and reflected a lot. I even skipped a meal. In my mind I finally accepted the love of my life is gone. I guess I got my closure. Update 5. Again champions. Thank you all for your DMs and comments asking for an update. Sorry to tell you depression has kicked in. Let me walk you through. Several things have happened in the last months. But today, February 17th, my divorce is complete. I am a single man again. First, let's go back to October 2022. At last I had a good peek of my life as single man. I've been going to my parents' house to learn to cook. I like cooking a lot. Last weekend I made bread myself. It was kinda ugly but delicious. I'll practice a lot to bake a cake for my godchildren for their B-Day next March. Also I noticed, I'm very intolerant towards cheating topics. Have you seen the sitcom, The Office? It used to crack me up, but now that I saw the cheating and gaslighting it stopped being funny to me, even if they tried to hide it as romance. I can't tolerate it. I bet none of the writers have been cheated on. I spoke to my attorney, he mentioned Birdbrain. Sue proceeded, and that reminded me I wanted to have a chat with Frank. Long story short, I met Frank and he told me Birdbrain was fired the same Monday I met him. And yes, he was living illegally at Frank's father's house. Since Birdbrain was his employee for years, Frank made a civic sue for trespassing, meaning he can't be near Frank or any of his properties for the next 5 years. If he does, the cops will be involved. I asked if Jane would be sued too, but he said Birdbrain confessed she was unaware of all the situation and that she just went to the house to exercise. With his guidance they used the repaired equipment to exercise. Besides, Frank assumed Jane and I were still together and he felt he owed me that. Frank is very cordial and friendly. He was cheated on in his youth, so he has zero tolerance on the topic. He gave me something. He said, "You're gonna love this." He showed me his phone. It was a soundless video from one of his CCTV cameras. It took me a minute to recognize it was showing the gym's cafeteria. All tables are empty but one. There is a man sitting with his back to the camera. Then a huge muscular back appears and I recognize Harry walking towards the man. I ask, "Is that?" Frank nods and I continue watching. Harry puts his hand on Birdbrain's shoulder, then Birdbrain covers his face with his hands. I can tell they are chatting and finally both men walk towards the camera and Birdbrain's face can be seen clearly for a few seconds. Sad expression, red eyes and tears on his cheeks. The video ends when they are out of the screen. We both laughed. I said I'm gonna put this video as my screensaver. It was taken the day before Birdbrain was fired. I've gone to my first session with the psychiatrist. He said I have signs of depression due to my anxiety combined with my insecurities, so he prescribed a soft antidepressant pill daily until next session. At the time I didn't feel any different. Also, I started taking kickboxing lessons. My coach told me I have good reflexes but I have a long way to go. Jane took all her stuff from the condo. She also took our marriage big picture. My brother's friend gave me a good idea. I'll sacrifice the living room to make another bedroom and make the dining room and kitchen a common area. So it will have 3 bedrooms. I hired a guy to take care of it. My attorney informed me Jane has her own attorney and he requested a meeting. I asked what I have to do and he told me to play along. He'll do all the talking, I just have to agree. Unless my lawyer thinks they make an unreasonable request, he'll ask for a timeout to discuss it. The following week the meeting took place at Jane's attorney's office. Jane was stunning and very quiet. She was trying to steal glances from me. After the proper introductions, her attorney M50-ish mentioned since I've already refused to pay alimony, the issue concerning to her client won't be mentioned, Jane's adultery. My attorney said that's fine if it is listed for the record, which her attorney reluctantly agreed. Then they proceed to split our assets, which was pretty fast because I don't want anything and Jane said she has taken everything she treasures. Besides, we didn't have expensive stuff. Finally her attorney asked for 5 sessions of marriage counseling and added if I agree and attend with an open mind and honesty, his client guarantees a smooth divorce. My attorney reduced them to 3 and NC between sessions. Made a worry face to my attorney and he kicked my foot under the table, meaning to play along. I saw Jane and she was making a face I've seen when she really wants me to do something, so I made my face of, "Okay, you win." And she smiled, marriage language again. Later I asked my attorney if MC is necessary. He said it is. Because the judge who will be assigned to our case may agree with Jane since she's making the attempt of reconcile while I am not. Or the judge may agree with me and ignore it. So attending to MC is a necessary risk. I said she was the one who cheated. He told me I've already asked for a compensation and the judge will overlook her adultery. The judge has the power to divorce us right there, or she may order more counseling and or a period for reconciliation. It's like flipping a coin. Moving on to mid-October, we attended to the first session. We sat on big sofas, one in front of the other and in the middle the counselor, let's call her Dolores. After hearing all the background and the main point of our divorce, she asked both of us what we expect. I said I just want to be amicable but still want to divorce, and Jane said she wants to reconcile. She asked for Jane's opinion about my goal and she said she doesn't want to divorce, she has never stopped loving me. I was about to argue but the counselor asked me to not interrupt. Then she asked me about Jane's goal. I said I don't think we can reconcile because I don't trust her anymore and I think she's in love with AP. This time Jane wanted to say something but the counselor asked Jane to not interrupt. Then asked me why I think that. I mentioned the gaslighting, how she was giggling the day before D-Day and how eager she was to get rid of me on D-Day. It was Jane's turn to talk. She swears she does not love Birdbrain. She has never told him, "I love you," because she doesn't. She barely spoke to him during the day even though he was constantly sending messages to her. She assures me she doesn't know important stuff like his B-Day, but she confessed she liked the thrill, the secrecy, the staring from other people. She wanted to show me from her phone she wasn't talking to Birdbrain that night. I said her phone is useless, because she used to delete conversations. Dolores mentioned there are apps that can recover deleted messages. I said, oh yeah, but Jane was silent and I could see she was thinking very fast. Dolores and I stared at her and she was making nervous movements. I said, will you give me your phone? Jane looked like she wanted to argue but kept silent. I said, you are still in contact with him, aren't you? Jane almost screamed, no. I swear, you. She was hesitant about giving me her phone and finally she gave it to me and said, please. Remember the Jane who texted is not me anymore. I said, what does that mean? I beg you, don't make me say it. I was in the fog. I asked Dolores about this, a fair fog, she told me. From her experience it looks like the judgment is clouded by the excitement and focus on a new relationship, so the subject's mind can't comprehend or just ignores the consequences of their actions. It varies a lot from person to person. Jane told me, I'm deeply sorry for all I texted to him. Now I can't understand why I was so disrespectful to you. At that moment I wasn't sure I'd want to know what she meant. If she trashed me like Birdbrain did, it would be a massive blow to me. I confided her everything about me. Next Dolores asked me what it takes for me to reconcile. I told her there are two major obstacles I don't see how to overcome. Number 1, she lied for a long time and I can't trust her anymore. Number 2, I can't be intimate with her ever again since she gave her body to another man. This made Jane tear. She says it was purely physical, like using a dildo. Besides, she swears Birdbrain wasn't very impressive at all. I reminded her my reason. Number 1. She insisted, almost desperate, I have never made love to him, you are the only one. I just felt angry and yelled back, and that's why you didn't touch me for the last months. Dolores asked Jane her reasoning to cheat on me. She spoke about she being the chubby girl, bullied and ignored. She was very lonely when she was a teenager. At university she was friend with some girls. Stared at her but when flirty and her friends told her she's hot and beautiful and that she must. But they tend to leave her behind. If it weren't for her great grades they would have completely ignored her. Then we met and it was like finding a twin soul. When she lost weight, all her fat went to very strategic places that made her look voluptuous. At first it was scary when men become confident of herself. That's when she started enjoying the attention and her ego went to the clouds when she saw Birdbrain staring at her too. She told me, you don't know how it feels to be ugly. I told her I do. I lost count of reactions in friend zoning. At job female colleagues made a list of handsome male colleagues and I didn't figured in it. I am still unattractive and I didn't care because I had a person who loved me. But that person traded me for a better looking guy. That sentence made her tear again. I belong to an ethnicity very bullied in my country, associated to poverty and ugliness. I had very hurtful nicknames and according to my therapist that's what made me gain weight, like an armor to protect my wounded ego. Dolores asked me if I can see she's remorseful. I said I can tell she is, but just because she's been caught, not for her cheating. Jane said she knows she screwed up, that's why she confessed to all people we both know. Dolores was specially interested in this confession and asked Jane why she confessed to people unaware of our marital problems. She said she knew she deserved a punishment, it wasn't enough my anger and cold shoulder. Many people called her and embarrassed her. She listened to every word, every insult and every swearing. Sil can confirm she did. She has lost friendships and mostly my relatives have disowned her, but she gladly took that bitter step if it would help to reconcile with me. I was out of words. Dolores told me most unfaithful people tend to hide their cheating as a negation mechanism, but Jane didn't. She owned her mistake. That's something I should give her credit for. I asked what Would have happened if I still were unaware. If today I were still clueless. She said Birdbrain was getting very aggressive and he was demanding either he or she tells me about the affair. He used to scared her saying something would happen to me and she was afraid what he would do. I scoffed. In her own words, I think you finding out was the best thing that could happen. It made me react and realize how screwed up I was. I told her I know Birdbrain is in love with her, and she already knew. That's why he hates me and used to trash me and he was demanding to disrespect me in my own house. He knew if I was in the picture Jane will never be his. Dolores asked me, what does your wife win asking for this marriage counseling? If she's so in love with Birdbrain, wouldn't she be eager to divorce you sooner? Why is she making all this effort? I must remind you she has already lost her acquaintances' respect. I couldn't answer. No, I'm not her meal ticket. She had a very decent job and she can get another one easily. She's not homeless nor disowned from her sister. Then I said, for the sake of the argument, let's say we reconcile and we live together again. What would happen then? I'd doubt everything she tells me. Every time I'm not looking I'd suspect. It'd be torture for me. Jane said, I know it would be difficult, but I'd never give you reasons to doubt me. I responded, you wouldn't for now, but what about in 2 years when the dust settles? When I have signs of trusting you again and another douchebag catch your eye or stares at you. Jane kneeled in front of me looking me in the eyes, I'd never hurt you ever again. The two most devastating experiences I recently had were when I received the divorcing papers and thinking you may have been badly injured when they called me from the hospital. If you give me another chance, I'll always remember this 2 times I thought I lost you and devote my life to make us happy. I was out of words again so I just scoffed again. By the time the session was over, at home I checked Jane's phone. I noticed Birdbrain is still blocked. I unblocked him and a lot of messages came. Babe, are you okay? Babe, call me. Babe, I'll go to your house to check on you unless you call me first. Babe, where are you? I bought an app to recover deleted messages. I was very nervous. I got most of the earlier messages back. The older ones were difficult so I got a few of them. I was expecting she being disrespectful to me, but she tries not to mention me. I found some sexting conversations but knowing Jane, she didn't enjoy it. Birdbrain uses rude words a lot and Jane hates that. He called her babe and some other ridiculous pet names I didn't even dare to use when we were in the honeymoon phase. Lots of I love yous from him but I didn't find a single one from Jane. I felt some relief and then punched myself because I shouldn't feel that. Also, as Jane said, Birdbrain used to mock me. He called me fatty, pathetic loser and little girl. Whenever he mentions me Jane just said, I don't want to talk about my husband. In the most recent messages I can tell whenever she didn't play along Birdbrain got angry and he told her he was on his way to my job to tell me everything while she begged not to. Obviously it was just a bluff, he doesn't know where I work. I looked for the messages at D-Day-1 and she didn't texted him. No call records either. I snooped some more and saw she was messaging to a chat group with Flirty and 2 other girls that night. They are hilarious. Some of their comments made me chuckle. At D-Day+1 Jane was kicked out of the group. The next MC session it was related to our past. Dolores asked how we met. It was at the university. We both were in the library doing homework. I had the last copy of a certain book. Jane asked me for it because she had to go home early, but I also had to go to my job, so we both needed it and I told her we can photocopy it. We were in different careers but we had the same teacher so the assignment was the same. We chat while we were in the line. We hit it on and I noticed how beautiful, intelligent and kind she is. She just thought I was a good person. I lent her the book and I got the photocopies, that way she had to return the book to me and we would chat again. I arrived late at work but I felt it was totally worth. We were friendly until I invited her out but she turned me down. From there I just greeted her in the hallways like a friend but I didn't make a move on her. Suddenly a week later she invited me out. I babbled a yes and we started dating. Next Dolores asked what made us fell in love with each other. In my case it was when I took Jane to eat Japanese food for the first time. She was clumsily trying to eat using the chopsticks until she had enough and said, "Fuck this." And she pierced the meat and ate that way. I'd never heard her cursing before so it made me laugh. And I said, "I love you," for the first time. Jane took longer but she says it was in a trip we both took. She knew it was going to be our first time being intimate, but she had cold feet because she thought it would disappoint her father. Also, she was scared. She thought I would get mad and didn't tell me. At night she started crying and apologized to me. I told her I'm not mad, and if she didn't feel ready, I understand. I want her to trust me and feel comfortable with me. We cuddled and slept. She realized she felt secure with me, and that was the first time she told me the L word. That session I didn't got angry nor yelled, and I had a nice time. Remember it, good old times. I gave Jane her phone back. I told her I believe her, she's not in love with Birdbrain. She took her phone, smiled at me and left without a word. She really is respecting my NC request. The following Sunday, one of my cousins, let's call her Karen, threw a Halloween party at a bar and she invited me. No disguises were required, so I groomed and attended to the party alone. Karen was one of the many people who received Jane's confession. She wrote her that she'll introduce me a very hot date, so she introduced me to a friend of hers, a woman in her late 20s, very attractive. Let's call her Princess. I greeted her and then I saw it. She made a face I've seen several times. Like if I had a giant booger dripping from my nose. A face of disgust and disappointment. I usually don't care about it, because I had my beautiful wife. At that time I was eager to know how much I've improved myself, seems none since 18 years ago when I met Jane. She never gave me that look. She always looked happy to see me, that's why I fell fast and hard for her. Immediately my defense mechanism acted and I wanted to keep my distance from Princess, but Karen sat us on a booth and I tried very clumsily to chat, but she barely responded. She took her phone out and texted while I tried to maintain conversation. Another guy came and told her, "Here you are. I didn't know you were coming. Wanna dance?" She looked at me and said, "You don't mind, right?" I said, "Go and have fun." I saw them getting lost in the crowd while I kept thinking, so he didn't know she was here, but still he was looking for her. I bet she texted him, "Come and save me from this creep." I looked for Karen. It took me some minutes to find her. She was talking to Princess. Before they noticed me, I clearly heard her saying, "You said he's a catch." "He is." And Karen saw me. They immediately got quiet. I said I'm not feeling well and I'm going home. I told Princess, "Sorry for not meeting. Very unattractive man. It will be very hard for me to build another relationship. I'm almost 45. Your expectations." She shrugged. Karen had daggers in her eyes. When I got home I thought she just was some materialistic witch, but she moved some dark old feelings from my youth. I couldn't stop them coming for me. I'll be alone from now on. Childless, wifeless. I am an alone, a total loser. I had another anxiety attack. My therapist told me what to do. I got under my sheets covered from head to toes. I was crying, trembling and sobbing. I don't know for how long until I woke up very early in the morning. My pillow was wet because of my tears and sweat. My head hurt and I sat on my bed staring at the floor for almost an hour, lost in my dark thoughts until my alarm rang. It was time to get up, but I didn't. I felt out of energy. I didn't go to the gym. I sat on the shower floor to sob and I went to work. One of my close colleagues, same guy who lent me his car, noticed I was very quiet and slow. He told me I look sad and I finally understood depression has kicked in. The following day I received some texts from Karen apologizing for her friend. I ignored it and tried to go to the gym, but I felt like my energy was cut in half or less. I was tired very quickly. I didn't complete my session and went home. The following Tuesday I took my godchildren trick-or-treating with Sil. In Mexico we do this on November 1st and 2nd. I cheered a bit, but when I got home I felt down again. The third and final session was 3 days after Karen's party. I arrived and tried to make a good face, but I failed. It took some minutes to Jane to notice I was not the same. She asked me if I was okay. I faked a smile and said I'm fine, but she stared at me and I couldn't see her in the. Jane said, "That's a lie, I can tell you're not fine." Dolores asked me what I am feeling. I didn't want to look weak in front of Jane, but then she said, "He's sad." I looked at her surprised eyes and she asked Dolores if we can reschedule because Op is not well. I insisted I'm fine, but sat next to me and asked, "What's wrong?" She grabbed my hand and this time I didn't reject her. I just saw her big beautiful brown eyes scanning my soul. I'm ashamed to admit I started to sob. I put my elbows on my knees and teared a bit. Jane caressed my back and I regained some composure. My nose was running and my eyes were red. I went to the restroom and wet my face. When I returned and sat next to Jane, I saw she had tears on her face and Dolores asked me the reason of my sadness. Jane said with trembling voice it was her fault. I agreed to be honest and told her it's not because of her. My insecurities are giving me a rough time. Jane stopped crying and grabbed my face with both of her hands and placed it in front of hers, nose to nose. She said, "Op, I really hate when you say you are unattractive. Yeah, I've whined to her about this in the past, especially when I felt I was losing her." Then she started numbering the things she likes about me. She also added, "When I undressed you at the hospital and you were only in your underwear, the nurses and I thought hubba hubba." That's the best translation I could find. That made me chuckle and I did feel better. I can see you are in better shape than I remember. I did lose another 4 kilograms when all this drama started, but also I lost some muscle due to lack of sleep and appetite. I glanced at Dolores. She was silent the whole time staring at us. She said, "You both still can work on a new marriage. Your previous marriage is done, but a new concept could work for both of you. That is my advice if you want to take it." Jane loved the idea. I said I'm not sure about that and I'll discuss it with my lawyer and my therapist. The rest of the session we talked about our life so far individually. I didn't know Jane got another job in a different company doing the same thing she did in the previous one and she's still on therapy. I mentioned I'm learning to cook and trying to focus on my mental health. She asked us the good points and bad points of being separated. I mentioned I am busier and it helps me to go on. I didn't mention sometime I miss my wife, but Jane did. She said she hates being alone and not in her house with her husband who she loves dearly. And she pressed my hand. I hadn't noticed we were sitting next to each other and she was still holding my hand. I'm sorry to admit in that moment of darkness her warm touch felt like a pure ray of light. The session was over. Dolores signed the documents given by our attorneys. We walked together and I took her to her car still unsure about my feelings to her. She asked me if the NC request was over. I told her I guess. Then she asked me if we can have a date for my birthday, mids of November. When she saw my face of worrying, she hurried to say it was only a dinner, she just want us to chat like the good old times. I agreed, but asked for no kisses and no excessive touching. We agreed to meet 2 weeks later, one day before my B-day. Meanwhile I asked for NC again. Update 6. Hi champions, I'm back with the final update. I appreciate everyone in here. It is because of you that today I have high hopes in my future. Thanks to all of you anonymous strangers who dedicate time for all the hurt souls and led them to heal. This kind of club sucks, but in the shared pain we find truly kind individuals who give us a hand just because they've met the same pain. Thank you very much. After meeting Jane and scheduled a date for our date, I was very confused about my feelings. I had to read my own testimony to remind myself what she did to me, but it was like a different person wrote it. I myself was thinking her cheating was not so bad, also she's remorseful. I saw again her video with Birdbrain. I wanted to get angry, but I just felt empty. I turned to some of you guys to give me advice trough DMs and learned that also exists something called the reconciliation fog. This makes us do the pick me dance to forgive cheaters and excuse their actions. My case. I was deep into this fog due to my depression and low self-esteem. Fortunately I had 2 weeks before my date with Jane. First, I had a meeting with my attorney. He said it was a bad idea. That I should only meet with both attorneys present. I told him it was important to me. It was going to be my litmus test. He said, "What if she's recording you and presents it as evidence of reconciliation?" I told him I'm still not sure what I wanted to do, that's why I need to see what happens. He shrugged and said, "You won't be the first one having cold feet, but if you still want to divorce, you need to evade any reconciliation topic and no signs of affection." I told him I understood. In the first week I had an appointment with my therapist and my psychiatrist. My therapist suggested adopting a pet. It can help me to relieve my depression. I love the idea because animals tend to like me for some reason. So, I went to a shelter and adopted a dog. She's so joyful and intelligent. Her name is Samantha. She's a mixed breed, medium size. I went nuts buying things for her. Toys, a leash, a collar with her name, a nice warm bed. She did help me to cheer up. My godchildren love her. My psychiatrist doubled my dose of antidepressants and prescribed a drug to ease compulsive thoughts. My parents psychiatrist and therapist gave me the same advice, in short words, do what will make you happy. But I didn't know what would make me happy at the end. Person I'd think about, I didn't attend to my last 3 kickboxing classes since Karen's Halloween. I needed something or someone that would smack me back to reality. It came from the last party. My coach Abraham, M40-ish, was pissed at me. He met me at the showers to scold me when saw I was down and asked, "Is everything alright?" I said, "Not really." I started telling him about my depression. He has a son currently dealing with the same and told me to meet him for some beers. So after class we went to a bar close to the gym, and I told him all about Jane and Birdbrain. He was absolutely disgusted and told me basically everything you all champions have. I spoke about my feelings, and he shut me down and said, "Speak up your mind." I was unsure what to say and he repeated, "What is on your mind? I don't care about feelings. Tell me what you want." I opened my mouth like a fish out of the water but didn't answer. He seemed exasperated about me and added, "You really need to man up." He told me to come earlier to the gym the following day. He paid for the drinks and told me, "You're gonna be born again." The next day I arrived 1 hour earlier. Abraham was expecting me. He gave me sparring gear and told me to meet him at the ring. I have never sparred before. I sometimes practiced using a sandbag but that was it. Abraham told me to punch him. I threw a punch and he almost laughed at me. He said, "Is this all you've got?" I felt I was blushing. There were some other students watching at us and I'm the oldest person there. I tried again and Abraham easily blocked me and pushed me back. I tripped and fell on my butt. He said, "Your determination is weak." He helped me to stand up and repeated, "Man up." I heard somebody chuckling and I felt mad. I took it more seriously and tried again and again and again but I wasn't able to hit Abraham once. I know he was going easy on me. I was tired and he told me to come the following day to repeat. He added, "You're not giving your all. Show yourself what you can do." That comment was glued to my mind all day. The following session Abraham asked some boy to record the sparring using my phone. Once more I didn't connect a single hit. Finally we watched the video while he gave me his opinion. My movements were clumsy, slow and weak. I could protect myself from some of his blows, but my reactions looked like I was panicking. I felt embarrassed just watching myself. Abraham told me to man up and I must do whatever it takes to punch him at least once. I admitted to myself I wasn't putting enough effort to kickboxing. I started watching videos online. I decided to add an extra hour to my training. At night I was watching the sparring video, studying my movements and thinking what I should do differently. I cleared my study to make space for shadow sparring. I was so obsessed about showing Abraham my determination that I absolutely forgot about my problems and my date with Jane. By the 5th session I was able to predict some of his movements but still I was slow. I noticed the people watching were incrementing. Later somebody told me there was a bet going. By the 7th day the miracle happened. I saw his fist moving towards my chest and I knew what to do. It was just 1 second. My body reacted with precision and speed. I punched him on his ribs. I was very glad but then I saw something black and the next thing I noticed is my face touching the floor and Abraham shouting, "Give him some room." I turned my body up. I saw that everyone was on the ring and Abraham kneeled next to me and told me not to move. Somebody came with a first aid kit. My nose was bleeding. I was dizzy and asked, "What happened?" Everybody started talking at the same time. They were excited and joyful. Abraham was apologetic and told me, "You did it, man." Sorry, it was a reflex. The kid who usually takes video of us showed me the moment I punched him. Abraham reacted and punched me back on the face and I passed out for about 5 seconds. It took me 1 week to connect a single punch on him. I joined the kids and shouted, "Hell yeah." I was euphoric. Somebody helped me to stand up while I felt some palms on my back. I was smiling and Abraham asked, "I'll repeat my question. What do you want?" I yelled, "I want to be stronger. I want to be the best version of myself." "What about your wife?" I made an angry face. "She betrayed me. She doesn't deserve me." He smiled and raised my hand like if I had won the match. We all yelled. I know it was just a punch I finally connected, but Abraham knew I needed this victory more than any therapy, medicament or advice because since then my confusion, sadness, doubts, all disappeared. Welcome to the last stage of acceptance. The following days I put much more effort into my training. and I took a series of decisions the old me would think more than once or ask for. Jane's opinion: I'll change my look, my car, I'll do things I didn't do because of fear of learning to dance, to play a musical instrument, and I'll have my first tattoo. Jane texted me the day before our date. I told her the place and time and she added, "Don't be late." I felt so much confident about myself. We met at her favorite restaurant at lunchtime. She was breathtaking as always. I was kind of plain. Jacket, t-shirt, jeans and hikers. I think she felt very confident on herself. I just smirked and started recording with my phone. We were amicable. My emotions on check. I didn't feel any anger nor rage like last time we met. It felt like when you speak to an old friend, and everything is purely platonic. At least from my side. She asked about my sadness. I told her I feel so much better now, which surprised her. She asked what triggered my insecurities and I told her about all princess drama. She was mad as my cousin Karen was. She mentioned she will never be ready to see me with another partner. I told her, I'm ending a messy relationship with my crazy wife. I referred to her as a third person in the past. She caught what I meant. A very smart idea from one of you champions. Then she told me, she sounds like a slut, you should get away from her. We laughed. God, how I miss these conversations with her. Before Birdbrain, we could chat for hours. Then she told me one of my coworkers contacted her and asked her out. I laughed. I've seen that weasel secretly staring at attractive women or girls. I wouldn't be surprised if he has stared at Jane. She turned him down and he got mad. I asked about Flirty, do you know what's her problem with me? She says she doesn't know, but her theory is that she dislikes my ethnicity, and she can't stand I have better studies and salary than hers. I'm at least 2 levels above her. Also, Jane discovered Flirty as dating, seriously, 2 guys. Whatever that means to her. We talked about Birdbrain. He called Jane from another number to convince her to run away with him. She swore she didn't spoke, she just listened and cut the call eventually. He's gone to another state. I said some nasty things about him. She was amazed how liar he is and completely agreed with me that he's a loser douchebag. She asked about the time he and I met. She read it in my post. I told her that seeing him so apologetic gave me confidence. Also, I was pissed, so it was easy for me to threaten him. She pleaded me to repeat the scene, and I did. I told her exactly as I recall what I said and how I said it. She had her eyes opened wide and she wet her freaking lips. She told me she had goosebumps. She has never seen me so aggressive before. Also, she repeated she liked me more. Then she got all flirty with me and asked if I want to go, stuffing the muffin. Our euphemism for being intimate, again closest translation. This was it, the moment I was waiting for. Jane was bringing her face closer to kiss me. I didn't have the time to think, but I felt it again, the anger and resentment. My body reacted and pulled my face away. I made an angry face and told her in a deep voice that stopped her immediately. No. She apologized profusely. I smiled again and told her that we should leave. It was late and I must walk Sammy. I paid for the meal. She didn't bring her car and asked me to take her to my home. I guess she was sure we were going to spend the night together. I was reluctant, but I wanted to push myself into the situation just to say no again. When we were in front of my apartment, we could hear Samantha whining and scratching the door. Before I entered, Jane got all serious and said, "Op, will you ever forgive your wife?" I already did. Then why won't you take her back? Because I will never forget what she did, and I can't trust her. She made a sad face but then asked, "What about me? Would you take me instead?" I smiled and said, "What are you talking about? We're friends." She looked offended. "Are you friend zoning me?" "I guess so, dude," and punched softly her shoulder. I thought she would look even more offended, but instead her eyes sparkled and had big smile. "You finally touched me." That was a surprise for me. Since D-Day I haven't voluntarily touched her. She took a step towards me. "Can I hug you? Please?" "Sure." She practically jumped on me. It felt so familiar. Her voluptuous body that strangely fits perfectly between my arms and chest, her perfume and her long wavy hair tickling my nose. I hugged her back and she pleaded, "Let's get back together." I told her, "No, Jane. We are going to divorce." She broke the hug and stared at my face. I guess she thought I was joking, but I wasn't. She didn't take it well. She was sure we were going to reconcile and made a scene in front of my apartment. I tried to calm her down, but she was protesting and yelling. She hugged me tight like if I was about to disappear. She was begging and telling me she has changed, she will make me happy, and she would do anything for me. And the tears started. I felt sad for her. I don't hate Jane. She was my best and only friend for so long and we both have amazing memories together, but she made a big mistake and as consequence I fall out of love. I saw a nosy neighbor peeking from his apartment, and I guided Jane inside my house. Sammy was curious about her. I didn't have any tea to offer so I warmed some soy milk while Jane sobbed and petted Sammy. I sat in front of her, the milk helped her to calm. She asked me, "Do you still love me? Just as the good friend you have been to me all these years?" "Not as a partner, not anymore," she yelled. "Why not?" "I've changed, Jane. I feel different now. I've finished mourning our marriage." She got mad and said I was being cruel. I said I was being realistic. What I said in MC was my honest truth. I can no longer trust her ever again. And I will never forget her face when I caught her on D-Day. She shattered my trust and destroyed my love for her. She hit the table and called stupid B herself and cursed Birdbrain. She admitted she didn't know what she had until she lost it. She gave me for granted. Then she made some proposals like granting her a period of reconciliation, opening our marriage on my side and or to being FWB. I told her she's being unreasonable. She asked me what I want from her. I told her I want her to be happy with whoever she chooses, and I will move on and be happy on my own. She asked if there is another woman in my life. I told her not yet, but someday. She covered her face with her hands. Sammy was sitting next to her and put her paw on her leg. I realized it was time to walk Sammy, around 10 p.m. Jane came with me. She was very quiet, walking by my side. When we were at the dog park, I took Sammy's leash off and she ran, sniffed and rolled over the dry grass. She loves that. Jane sat next to me and finally spoke. "I'll never find love again." "Yes, you will. There are a lot of fish in the pond." She told me at her new job 2 coworkers have asked her out. Both are married. I asked, "Have you reported them?" She said it's not possible because they asked for a friendly going out and that's very innocent from HR point of view. I asked if she's sure about those guys' intentions. She said both have their eyes glued to her breasts. So, she's sure. She placed a picture of both of us on display like assholes repellent. I laughed. She didn't laugh. She said she seriously thinks she'll be alone from now on luring scumbags. She can't have children and she lost the love of her life. She asked me if I'll marry again. I told her I don't think so. I may not believe in marriage again. I didn't mention I do want to have children. I sent the audio to my lawyer and days later he told me he didn't find anything showing reconciliation, just useless chit-chat that'd be a waste of time if it's presented as evidence. Besides, it was a smart move to refer Jane as a third person because it sounds like I'm not talking directly to her. On my birthday, most of my extended family texted me and called to know how I was. I went to my parents' house. My brother and his wife were already there. Jane showed up with all my in-laws. We all played, ate and enjoyed a big, tasty cake made by my mom, best cook ever. No drama. Mill was in a good day. She felt confused but she enjoys watching the twins play, even though she forgets they're her grandchildren. It really was a great day. When we cut the cake, I realized I had everything I wanted. My godchildren are still in my life, I forgave Jane, and my depression is almost gone. Several other things have happened since. On mid-December I dated a single mother who tried to convince me to adopt her annoying child. That's a funny ride. If there is a place where I can post about disastrous dates, I'll tell you about it. One of my tenants wanted me to be her sugar daddy. I got my first tattoo on my shoulder. It's an Aztec eagle warrior, meaning I'm proud of my heritage and my ethnicity. If somebody have a problem with my appearance, I'll just shrug and continue being me. I'm a decent hardworking person. Aztec eagle warriors used to wear a helmet made of the head of a royal eagle. Royal eagles are a symbol of freedom, honesty and strength in my country. At the end of December Jane quit her job because one of the coworkers harassing her was a big shot at the company. HR was gaslighting her, so the smartest move was to quit. I spent Christmas with the twins and her family. She's accepting we're done but she's annoyingly friendly to me. On January I made a Tinder profile. One of the kickboxing guys helped me making my profile. Although I had few likes, I contacted a junior high teacher. She's witty and very funny. We started dating. Sadly, I know it's not going to last. She doesn't want children, she's a gamer and I consider video games a waste of time, besides she wants me to stop practicing kickboxing because it is too violent. As you know, my divorce was over on February 17th. Jane texted me, "I know this is not the end for us." Days later, Sil told me Jane got in the depression stage. She begged me to talk to her. Because she does listen to me. She stopped working and she's very skinny. She used to sleep most of the day and refused to attend therapy until I talked to her. She wants me to contact her more frequently, but I told her this is precisely what is causing her depression. She has to let me go. That's it. I feel now I'm on the right path. I'm studying a lot to get the promotion which will allow me to travel. I'm still doing great at the gym. I haven't sparred with Abraham again, but guys there asked me to help them. Finally, I got what I wanted, to be amicable with my ex, and I didn't lose my in-laws that I still consider them as my family. My godchildren love me, and I love them as my own children. I couldn't stand the thought of losing them. Because of them I went through the rabbit hole, I went through the stages of mourning, and I got over Jane. In my country the godparents are responsible for the kids if anything happens to mom and dad. Godparents are the second parents. To all who are mourning a marriage, don't let the bitterness gets the best of you. There is light at the end of the dark tunnel. It takes time and dedication from you. Maybe not today, not tomorrow, but someday you'll get over all of this. I wish you the best. As a real rockstar used to say. Bantar out. Update 1 year later. TLDR. It has been a year since my divorce has been over. Here's what happened in the last year. Hey champions. Today, February 17th, is a year since my marriage with Jane ended. I've received several requests for an update. I feel I owe that to all of you who helped me in the darkest period in my life. Since early 2023, guys at the gym started calling me abuelo, grandpa, because literally I'm the oldest person practicing kickboxing. My hair is completely black, but I've noticed I have some gray hair here and there. I don't mind the nickname because it means I'm one of the guys. Some of them have approached me for an old man's advice, such as how to manage taxes, how to wear a tie, help to polish their resume for a good job hunt. I follow my training and diet almost religiously. My weight may have not decreased, but my body fat did. I'm around 20% fat, a huge accomplishment for me. Not everything has been peaches and cream. I got injured at the gym. I was training at the same pace as the young ones, but my body couldn't keep up. I got a muscle tear on my shoulder that took several months to heal. Also at sparring I was co-ed badly. Abraham has asked me to slow down and practice something less stressing for my body like yoga or aikido, so I switched for the second option where I've found people about my age but I'm thinner and more muscular. I'm sticking to martial arts. All my living expenses are paid by the rental of my apartment, so most of my salary is saved since Samantha, my dog, and I live a very frugalist life. The promotion I mentioned previously was given to another colleague. He does deserve it. There will be another in the future. It requires me to improve my English skills and study a second mastery degree. I did take dancing lessons. At the beginning I was very stiff, but I've been improving slowly. Also, I hired a music teacher to learn to play the keyboard. I keep busy myself. As for dating, some guy from the gym helped me to create a Tinder profile, but none of the ladies there caught my interest. Most of them are looking for hookups, a sugar daddy, or just somebody to be unfaithful with. While I'm looking for a more mature relationship. The first relationship I had after my divorce was a real nutcase. First, we need to talk about my mom's sister. She's truly a kind soul, always tries to help, however sometimes her help causes some trouble since she tends to misunderstand, or she makes wrong assumptions. Let's call her Aunt Angie. In December 2022, Angie called me to see if I'm free for a blind date. Since she's one of my favorite aunts I accepted. She told me the girl was the daughter of her neighbor. I wanted more details, but she told me I will have to find out at the date. Aunt Angie texted me the place and date the following day. We met at lunchtime at a familiar restaurant. I know places more romantic to eat and have a nice time, but the lady wanted to eat there. I arrived on time. I'm always very punctual, but she came almost half an hour late with her kid, a chubby 10-year-old boy glued to his cell phone. Let's call them Jessica and Kevin. I didn't mind, but I thought it was weird to bring your child to a blind date. About Jessica, she's about 35, chubby and pretty with a big cleavage and very high heels. She was wearing a lot of makeup and huge eyelashes I really dislike. Those remind me of women who go heavy on the silicone in their body. Looks deformed instead of aesthetic. I thought let's give it a shot. She was all smiles and greeted me with a kiss on my cheek. Kevin and I shared a handshake. He looked at me for a second and then returned to his loud game, no idea what he was playing. I just heard gunshots, screams and explosions. After some pleasantries I noticed Jessica was focused on my assets. She asked me about my job, my car, also my salary. She knew I own an apartment thanks to Aunt Angie. I answered with general responses which she didn't like. She wanted exact numbers. I told her I don't like discussing such matters and she smiled, but something changed in her mood. She was annoyed. Then I asked about her life. She told me she wouldn't tell me about her income, which I hadn't asked. She is a transcriptionist. She receives voice recordings and transcribes them into written reports. She can do it from home and take care of Kevin. She looked at her boy and smiled while petted his hair. Kevin didn't notice the gesture. He was still playing with his mouth opened. I asked what he was playing and Jessica answered for him. The kid seemed completely oblivious to his surroundings. We ordered food. I was starving since I only had a sandwich and a protein shake as breakfast. Kevin made a little tantrum because there wasn't his favorite burger on the menu. I told him there are other delicious hamburgers he can eat. He grabbed his paper napkin and threw it to me. I said, that wasn't a nice thing to do. Jessica told me to never speak to her kid like that. She smooched the boy's cheek and promised he would like the new burger. The kid with tears in his eyes nodded and returned to his game. The rest of the date was not so bad. Fortunately Kevin's phone's battery died, so we had some peace, until the kid got bored and demanded her mom's attention. I tried to grab his attention but he ignored me. Jessica said that's because I'm a stranger and he taught him to ignore strangers. Fair enough. We dated 2 more times, both times she brought Kevin with her. On the second date I suggested going to a park and I bought a soccer ball for Kevin in hope he would like to play anything else than video games, but he wouldn't. Kevin didn't pay any attention to my gift. On the third date I bought him a kite which again he ignored and he was specially annoying, throwing tantrums for the most idiotic reasons. I may have made a face of exasperation and Jessica got mad. I told her I would like to have a date only with her, go to a bar or another place made for grown-ups. Third date was at a McDonald's. Jessica made the comment I only want to sleep with her. I said, that's the reason you carry your son with you. She freaking nodded and said she doesn't trust men, and gave a speech about how strong she is because men can't control her. Here's when Jessica showed her true colors. She asked again how much I earned before I repeat my answer. She told me that if I wanted a relationship with her, would have to meet her expectations, and one thing that is obligatory is that I must give her my complete salary so she could manage it. Yeah, you read it right. I raised my eyebrows and thought, nice meeting you, I'm out of here. But at that moment our order was ready. Don't judge me, it has been months since I ate a hamburger. So I stayed and asked, what are your expectations? I don't know if wolves smile, but I bet Jessica smiled like one. She started telling me all she wants. For example, I can keep my car but I must buy her a new big one. About my car, I have a thing for small cars. Instead of buying a new one I chose to repair mine and it works perfectly, but Jessica thinks small cars are embarrassing. She's not a maid, so all the chores at home will be my responsibility, including cooking. She wanted to see my apartment, to move there or to a bigger place if she dislikes it. I must pay her and her friends they're going out. I asked how, since she want to keep all my salary. She didn't have an answer, but she did mention that the salary thing is for her recognizing me as a man. That's what her father, now divorced to her cheating mother, used to do. The most ridiculous thing I must accept is that she is a free woman, meaning she can and will have male friends, and I must be loyal to her. Also, Kevin's father is not out of the picture. He travels a lot and he's not usually around, but when he is in the city either she may ask me to sleep in a hotel or she may not come home. To all her expectations I answered, I see, or I understand, never an affirmative answer. You might think I was angry, but I was amused. I thought these entitled narcissistic women were an exaggeration. Boy, they are real. Besides, I thought it would be a good laughable story for my buddies at the gym. She asked me if I have any questions. I did. I wanted to know what she would bring to the relationship. According to her, I must give her all my money and my loyalty, and turn a blind eye when she's cheating. She repeated she's a free woman and I said, and I am not stupid. I'm out of here. I stood up and she may have realized she was losing a good opportunity and desperately told me to sit and discuss it with her. She wanted to know what I was expecting from her. I repeated my question, what would you bring to the relationship? She said with a smile, you will have a high-value woman. I scoffed and said, is that it? That's just extra baggage to my life. I turned around and she yelled at me, calling me an ugly nobody, that I don't deserve her. I told her, you are right, I deserve better. All people at the place were watching us, I said, show's over folks, and left. When I arrived home, Jessica was calling me and I blocked her. Later that same evening, Aunt Angie called me very concerned because her friend, Jessica's mom, called her demanding to know where I live. I invited her to have dinner and chat. She immediately said yes. She's usually alone. Her husband arrives late at night and her 2 boys left the nest about 10 years ago. So we met at a cafe close to her house and I told her about my last date with Jessica and she understood why her friend was so mad. She told me about the time when she spoke with Jessica's mom about having a single beautiful daughter with a kid. She immediately thought about me divorcing Jane and wanting to have kids, so they arranged a blind date. Angie mentioned to her friend that I am a feminist, old school feminism. In her case this means I respect women. But for Jessica and her mom this means I am a pushover, modern feminism. That was the reason for her entitlement. Aunt Angie told me about her friend's affair that she denies, but everybody at building knows that's the reason of her divorce. Angie's hairdresser saw her making out with another man. Also she told me, Kevin's father is a truck driver, but Jessica always says he's traveling because of business. I thought that would be the end of it, but they kept pestering Aunt Angie. I asked her if she needs me to call the police, but she said no unless they keep annoying her. I decided to unblock Jessica and called her. She was surprised, then she fake cried saying she missed me. She was sorry for what she had said and also Kevin asks every day about me. She told me she just wants to see me once and that's all she asks. I said I'll see her if she promises to stop harassing my aunt. She promised. We 3 met at a park. Jessica hugged me and fake cried again. It's unbelievable how fast she can open and close the tears. Kevin is always glued to the phone and ignoring me, but Jessica assured me he asked for me every day, he loves me and finally if I accept becoming his daddy. I squatted in front of Kevin and gently pushed down his phone and he looked at me. I smiled and asked, hi Kevin. Do you know who I am? The kid turned his head to her mom who was mouthing my name but he didn't understand. He looked at me again and shrugged his shoulders. I moved his hair and let him continue playing. Jessica said, it's because he calls you another way. I turned and said, as you promised, stop pestering my aunt or we'll call the cops. She tried to stop me. She followed me and turned the tears again, calling me heartless person. Then she said if at least I can buy Kevin a Christmas present like a sayonara gift. I told her I already gave him a soccer ball and a kite, but she says he wants a video game. By then we arrived at my car. I said, ask his father, why don't you sue him for child support? And this time really was the last time I've seen her. Aunt Angie says she hasn't seen them again. My next relationship was from a match on Tinder. Guys at gym helped me with the pictures. I'm a 5, but they made me look like a 7 with no filters. I was happy with the result. The match was a teacher, very pretty and independent, with no kids, and single. Let's call her Erica, F32. When I met her, I could see she was overweight, but we had great chemistry. She's witty and very intelligent. We could talk for hours. She was as welcome to my home as I was at hers. We had very passionate nights. She told me I inspired her to return to the gym. This is the time when Elle had a muscle tear and I had to slow down with the workout. So we exercised together. At the end she was very sore, so she skipped 2 days. Then she returned and felt sore again. This time she skipped a week. She came back for 3 days and then suddenly she had a lot of excuses to avoid the gym. So I stopped asking. Some weeks later I was knocked out badly at sparring. At first, I was disoriented, then for the following days I was dizzy and had sudden nausea. Erica tried to stop me practicing martial arts. They are too violent. She told me she wouldn't return to the gym because she was worried about me getting hurt again. Why did we break up? There are 2 main reasons. The first one is that she had a crush on a colleague, and she acted on the crush. The second is the main reason and my excuse to end the relationship. But first you must know that she's a gamer. I don't have a problem with that, but she often avoids her responsibilities to play video games, and she plays a lot of games. Job. Once we didn't sleep at all one night because she was late to complete a task that was due the following day and I helped her. This was getting on my nerves. That's when the problem started. She had always time to play but never to exercise or do her. About a month later I met her goofy friends at a bar. We had some drinks. They weren't easy on the alcohol and made fun of me because I only drank a couple of beers. That's because I had to drive and I don't drink a lot because of my training. These meetings took place every EWO weeks. Once they mentioned a new colleague that arrived at the school a couple of weeks after Erica and I met. Let's call him Ivan. Erica with sparkling eyes was saying that Ivan does a lot of exercise and he's handsome. This was my first red flag. She didn't put a cork on it. I didn't want to sound paranoid, so I let it slide, but from there I paid close attention to her behavior. The next red flag. The last time we met she mentioned I can stay in since it looked like I wasn't having a good time with her friends. I said that's nonsense and invited myself in. When we arrived, I noticed a new guy sitting with her friends. It was Ivan, M30. Erica was supposedly surprised. I chatted with him. He's a cool guy and single with Jiri friend. We both chat about the gym, exercising and shared some tips. Erica inserted herself into the conversation to tell him we both exercise a lot. It's been about 3 months since she stopped going to the gym. I just nodded. I didn't want to make her look bad in front of her friends. From there our intimacy slowed down. The following week Ivan texted me. I didn't give him my number, he got it from Erica. I asked if they both chat a lot. He told me it's mostly her texting him. How interesting. He doesn't like chatting with female colleagues since his girlfriend is very insecure. That same day she told me she was sorry, that she doesn't want us to break up, and we did it right there. Confronted Erica at her home about our lack of intimacy and asked if she wants to end things. Afterwards I asked if she had a crush on Ivan. She laughed and said she considers him like a little brother. I didn't buy it. On our last day together, I had to attend a meeting out of the city. According to my calculations, I'd arrive home around midnight. I asked Erica to walk Sammy at 10 p.m. She agreed. I pleaded her not to play video games because she'd forget. She promised she wouldn't play that night. During the day Ivan texted me if I would be going to the next meeting because Erica always insisted him on going. The first day when she acted surprised, she had invited him. Also she flirts a lot with him. I was going to confront her about this. I arrived home close to midnight and Sammy was hiding under the table. That was very strange of her. Then Erica told me she had to beat her up because she peed inside the house. I argued that my dog has never done that before, and I demanded an explanation. Then she lied again telling me she was watching a movie and out of nowhere Sammy peed. I went to the living room where she had connected her devices to my TV. One of them was warm, meaning she had played. I spoke calmly. You forgot to take out Sammy, right? Because you were playing, am I wrong? She got defensive and started raising her voice, and so did I. I was angry she hurt my pet when she was in the wrong. She yelled I care more for a stupid dog than her feelings, and then she said very hurtful things, like I'm her worst lover, I have never made her finish, and that she's sure I'm going to die alone. That would have crushed the old me. I stopped arguing with her. What's the point when she's defending her wrongdoing? And watched her ranting. She got angrier and angrier when started ignoring her. At last, she finally stopped. I said, are you done? This is over. One more thing I forgot to add to the list of her delightful qualities is that she's very prideful. She took out her phone and contacted an Uber. Meanwhile, I was trying to convince Sammy to leave her hiding spot. She refused. When the Uber arrived, she said, make sure to send me my stuff. After she left, Sammy finally came out under the table. I had forgotten to confront her about her lies. The next day I bought a big box and put all her stuff in there. Clothes, shoes, toiletries, video games, 2 consoles, even food she stored in MV refrigerator that I don't eat. Went to her apartment, put the box in front of the door and rang the bell. When she saw me, I said, here are your things, let me know if I missed something, and walked away. I heard her say, wait. I raised my hand and said, you're welcome, and left. She tried to contact me, but I am no longer interested, so I blocked her. The same day Ivan texted me saying he's sorry Erica and I broke up. I thanked him and asked how he knew. Erica had told him. A month later she came to my home all apologetic. I found out later she tried to kiss Ivan, but he refused and reported her to our. Ivan told me himself, we're good buddies now, but by then, by pure coincidence I was with my next relationship. When Jane and I made the purpose of having a healthier life, the first step was to contact a nutritionist. Her name is Myra. We scheduled a monthly appointment. When our results were showing and improving, the appointments were every 2 months, 3 months and nowadays every 6 months as a follow-up. The last 2 sessions I went alone. Myra asked me why Jane is not with me. I told her we had divorced. Then we chat for the rest of the session. She told me Jane and I were her most successful case, and she loves to brag to other patients about us. And with a well-worked body. She thought that was endearing, so she glimpsed the possibility. She said she remembers when I arrived all clumsy, chubby and shy. Now I'm more extroverted of a relationship with her. She told me if I'm interested, she needs a tea for her son's wedding. I had to reject her because I was dating Erica, but a month later we ended up things and I texted Myra. We met for a coffee. I asked if I still could be her +1. She said yes. She asked the reason of my change of mind. I told her about Erica and what she did to my pet. She got angry because she loves dogs. I asked if she was married. It turned out she's divorced. She and her husband ended the marriage when her son was a kid. She had boyfriends for the next years until the last guy got tired, a couple of months ago, because she doesn't want to get married again. I learned she is a year older than me, but she looks like she's in her 30s. Beautiful face, thin body, and great sense of humor. I asked if it's okay since I'm her patient so it would be unethical. She told me I can fire her as my nutritionist. At the end of the date I said, I guess I will have to find a new nutritionist, and she kissed me. She's not looking for anything serious, she wants to have fun. I asked how many guys she's having fun with. She looked offended. She told me I am the only one. When she knew I had divorced, she thought it was perfect timing, because that was the same day she decided to date again. She thinks God put me in her path for some reason. I agreed. Finally I asked if she wants us to be exclusive and she said it's not necessary. She sees me as her FWB. So we started going out, have dates and lots of sex. She loves my tattoo. At her son's wedding the dancing lessons were very useful. Her son was very cordial to me, but I could see a small, "You don't deserve my mom," glimpse in his eyes. When Erica came to apologize, Myra was inside my home. She had slept with me and was wearing one of my shirts. I was wearing sandals, shorts and a t-shirt. Myra came to the door. When I was hearing Erica's excuses, Myra was purring and said to me, "Here's your coffee, stud." She gave me a cup of coffee and slapped my butt. Then she looked at Erica and added, "I'm sorry, I didn't know we have company." She hugged me by my back and put her chin on my shoulder and one of her pedicured feet on my knee. Erica left with tears in her eyes. I told Myra, "That was mean." She said, "She's the one who hurt Sammy, right?" I asked, "How do you know?" Then I noticed Sammy was hiding under the table again. Och, she may deserve it. The following week I texted Ivan and he mentioned Erica looks miserable. On midst of September, it was a Saturday around 8 p.m, I was chilling out at home studying. When suddenly I heard Jane hitting my door. I was very concerned. My first thought was that something happened to Mill or one of the twins. When I opened the door, she was in tears. She hugged me saying, "I didn't speak to him, I swear." She buried her face on my chest when I heard, "Babe, please talk to me." In front of me was standing Birdbrain wearing a sleeveless t-shirt. Jane hid behind me and shouted at him, "Leave me alone." By then Samantha started to bark. That made Birdbrain stop approaching. My anger kicked in and yelled. You heard her stepped sideways and blocked his view. He looked at me and said, "Come on, man. You two are divorced, right? She is no longer your concern." He was right, but I guess I hate more Birdbrain than I am mad at Jane. I told her, "Go into my house and call emergencies." She obeyed. When the door closed, Birdbrain didn't say a word, he just stared at me with anger or hate. I started walking towards him, my fists clenched. He turned around and ran away. He got into a car. Asshole. Fuck off. Birdbrain ignored me and shouted at Jane, "Babe, come with me, let's talk." That I hadn't noticed. The driver gave me the finger and they left. Then I noticed Jane's car was parked wrongly and still had the lights on. I entered my home. She hugged me again. She was a little incoherent and shaking. She apologized. "I'm sorry, I brought him here. I came because I don't want him to know where I live. I swear I didn't speak to him." I gave her a hot beverage to calm her down. When the police came about 2 hours later, she filled a report. She was more in control of herself. According to Jane, Bird Brain was outside her gym waiting for her. When she saw him, she ran to her car and didn't know what to do. She was looking for a police officer or a patrol but couldn't find any. Finally, she decided to come to my home. When the cops left, they suggested to put a camera recording the exterior. After I returned from walking Sammy, Jane asked if it's okay to stay. "You always make me feel safe." I agreed, but not hanky-panky. She smiled and accepted. She was still wearing her gym clothes. I told her to have a shower. She asked me if she can wear one on my shirts. I said sure. "What do women have with men's shirts?" She giggled and went to the bathroom. She did something that I think was intentional. She left her cell phone on the table while she took a shower. Perhaps she wanted me to snoop, but I didn't. Why should I? After calling Sil, we watched a movie. She was lying on the sofa. Eventually she fell asleep. Watching her sleeping with a sad face made me think about the time when she and I were married. I will never trust her, but I do care about her. I admired her body. She's still very attractive. I put a blanket on her and went to sleep. I had an erotic dream where Jane came to my room like a naked ghost ready to meet my most dirty fantasies. Next day, Sunday, she woke up and said it's been a long time since she slept that well. She was happy and prepared a nice breakfast while we discussed about Birdbrain. I had something nagging in my mind. How did he know how to find her? And how did he know we are divorced? She told me she may have mentioned she liked certain chain of gyms, so Birdbrain must have been checking all of them in the zone until he found her. Also, it is obvious we are no longer married since she had to knock on my door and it's not our previous address. I guess she may be saying the truth. She said she's going to ask for a restriction order for him. I asked if she knows where he lives. Yeah, I'm that paranoid. Jane told me it's obvious she doesn't know, but it is very possible he will be guarding the gym where he was waiting for her. So she is going to pay somebody to serve him right there. She did that and the moron asked the lawyer who gave him the document where he can find Jane. On November 19th, due to a liver disease, my mom passed away. One day before my birthday. If I was devastated, my father and brother were in worse condition than me. My parents were married for 47 years, and my brother was my mom's favorite. It's impossible to put into words the sadness, the regret and all the pain we were feeling. At that moment, I texted Myra. She gave me her condolences and told me she will pray for my family. Next, I texted Jane. She didn't answer. But 20 minutes later an Uber parked in front of the hospital and Jane got out with her eyes red and hurried to hug me and my family. My father, brother and his wife went to pray at the hospital's chapel. The doctor gave me a list of all the documentation needed to release my mom's body. Also he advised me to bring an attire in which my mom would be cremated. Very sad, but Jane's company helped me to stay focused. I wept a couple of times when I saw my mom's clothes. So many memories. Jane was ready to comfort me. After that we went. Jane said, "I'm coming with you." We went to my parents' home to gather all documents. I was to my home to walk Sammy. I had a little chat with Jane when her father passed away. I was there to support her. She told me it is time for her to back me up, and I agreed. We returned to the hospital to hand the documents in. My father and brother were next to my mom's empty bed. They had already contacted family and friends. I hugged them. My father thanked me for taking care of the process. He may not be able to do it. Jane was contacting the funeral staff. My father went to my brother's home. I had to wait and sleep in the hospital and Jane stayed with me. By 4 in the morning somebody woke me up and told me everything is ready. I received the documents and sent them by text message to the funeral contact. The funeral arranger called me some minutes later. He told me they would take care of everything from there. He gave me the address and room where we can say goodbye to my mom. Jane and I went to grab a bite. After eating, Jane asked me to take her home. I did, and she pleaded me not to go. Sil gave me her condolences. My godkids were at home since it was a holiday. They showed me they were doing homework. I cheered just by talking to them. Jane came back rushing with a birthday gift for me. This put a smile on my face. It was a big box. She gave me a wallet and some supplements for the gym. Afterwards we went to my home to feed Sammy and I took a shower. It's amazing how animals perceive sadness. I cried silently in the shower and Sammy was scratching the door. Jane took her from her collar to the dining room, but she returned and whined. When I came out of the bathroom, she jumped to lick my face like saying, "Cheer up." Jane and I arrived at the funeral room. After I identified myself, they told us my mom was already there and the embalming was scheduled by the next 2 hours. Meanwhile we bought some flowers and went to the closest supermarket to buy coffee, tea, bread, cookies etc. for the attendees. At our return they told me it is time to dress my mom, but I froze. 6 years ago when Phil died, we were in the same situation, somebody had to dress him. Sil's husband and I did it and it's a scene I'll never forget. It took us a while to dress him and then somebody applied makeup on his face to look more natural. All these thoughts came to my mind. I didn't want them to be my last memories of my mom. Jane knew this so she stepped up. She told me she would take care of her. Jane and the staff did a great job. Somehow, they could put a little smile on her face, it looked like she was peacefully sleeping. Jane came to me, hugged me and cried. I understood. I did exactly the same thing 6 years ago. I don't want to know what she saw. Aunt Angie and all my piblings and most of my nibblings and cousins were there, also my gym buddies, Abraham and Ivan showed up. Some of them remembered it was my birthday and gave me a bittersweet hug. I texted Myra the address and room, but she told me she was very busy and she had to attend more patients the next day early, so she wouldn't come. I accepted it. She didn't meet my mom, besides she was clear from the beginning this was a casual. Most of my relatives ignored her. I noticed my cousin Karen and some other glaring at her. That relationship, I didn't press it. Jane on the other hand was offering beverages and snacks but was not fair. She has been nothing but help to me and my family. She loved and respected my mom. She returned next to me with the tray full. She told me, I guess they are not hungry yet. I put the tray on a table next to us and told her, I haven't thanked you for all your help. All due to me too. I put my arm on her shoulder. Anyway, I'm really grateful you are here, and kissed. She said, I'm going to see who wants a snack, and left. The tray was still on the table. Anything you want, just ask. She didn't look at me, no need to thank me, she was like a mother. Her forehead. A lot of people stared at us. I smiled to them but Jane seemed uncomfortable. Fortunately my relatives were kinder to her the rest of the process, but Jane didn't come close to me until my mom was cremated. She hugged me very quickly and told me she had to go. The next days were sad and chaotic. Myra went to see me. She apologized. She lied to me because she admitted sad people affects her. She wanted to have a date because that day was my birthday. Instead, she stayed in and felt bad because it's the first time she had lied and she's aware of what lies can do to a relationship. I accepted her apologies, but I also told her I am not a very fun company at that moment. I was still mourning my mom. She said she was aware of that. She just wanted to come clean to me and perhaps cook and have dinner with me. I loved the idea. In the following days Jane come to my house. I let her come in. She was mad and yelling. I had to lock Sammy up because she started barking to Jane. Then she demanded to know about the kiss I gave her. I'm paraphrasing here. I don't remember the exact words. I told her it was to tell my family we're cool because I noticed they were being rude to her. Jane kept silent. Some tears came to her eyes. Don't do that ever again. I was perplexed. She continued yelling at me. You don't know how hard it was for me to get over you, and that kiss destroyed all therapy I had for the last months. I apologized. I wasn't thinking about her feelings at all. She continued, you just keep my hopes high, you effing ah. Wow, she cursed. I looked at her like she was an alien. Then she punched my arm and continued cursing me, effing idiot. Scumbag, son of a b. She started punching my arms and chest. I didn't do anything, just let her rant. Her punches weren't doing any damage, but they did hurt. She did it for several minutes while Sammy was barking in the next room. Jane was out of breath. I hugged her. Somehow, I knew she needed to let this out. She looked intensely into my eyes. We kissed, completely making out. When we stopped, she called me stupid and slapped me. I smiled. I was so aroused to see this ferocious Jane. Finally, we ended up having intimacy, very rough and vigorous. I missed that voluptuous body and her pretty face. We would have continued but Sammy needed to go out. When we were at the dog park we put the cards on the table. Jane already knew about my relationship with Myra. I said I wouldn't end it, although we're in a FWB non-exclusive relationship. Jane said she understood, but she can't have a relationship like that. I told her that's the only relationship I can offer to her. She sighed and said she may cut ties with me for good. I asked what she will do from now. She said she didn't know. I asked for another round since it seems it's the last time we'll see each other. She agreed and spent the night with me. The following weeks I didn't hear from Jane, nor I asked. What a pity. Besides all the drama, she was a good friend. I spent Christmas with my father and brother. We were very sad. My mom used to cook and now we three morons had to do it ourselves. It was a really good experience. We were busy with all the cooking. I had to give directions to my dad and brother since I was the only one that can cook. We made a very decent Christmas meal. I cooked a turkey for the first time. We ate, cried, toasted on my mom's memory. It was sad but we three had a good time. Several relatives invited us to spend Christmas with them, but we wanted to be alone. Myra stayed with her parents, and Sil, my brother's wife, also was out of the city. By the beginning of 2024 somebody was knocking on my door. It was Jane. I asked, "Is everything all right?" She pushed me inside and started kissing me. She said, "I accept." She accepted to have a FWB relationship with me. I reminded her I was still dating Myra and she said she knew, but she still wants to be with me. I asked what made her change her mind. She told me she tried to date again but it was the same as last time. She compared both dates with me. I asked, "What about your therapy?" She said the aim of the therapy is to make her feel good about herself, and she felt great last month when we had sex, including the following days after we met. We had a quickie because I had somewhere to be. Also at night I had a date with Myra, who accepted my relationship with Jane, but she doesn't want to meet her. So now we have a FWB relationship. That's great. I really like her body, expressions in her conversation. I've been balancing my life with two beauties, my studies, dancing and keyboard lessons, my training. I resumed my therapy with the thanatologist to close some issues I have with my mom. I have a new tattoo, an orchid on my chest next to my heart. It was my mom's favorite flower. I haven't given up to the idea of becoming a father. Meanwhile, I'll enjoy my relationship with these two extraordinary ladies. I'm okay with my life for now. This story is from the Reddit user Banter1107. I hope you liked this story. That's all.